Hi, my loves, and welcome back to I'm On Your Side with me, your host, Sierra Boudreau. I hope you guys have had a good week or are having a good week so far. I have been putting off recording this episode because the topic that I came up with just didn't feel right. Do you know how sometimes you get that feeling where you have a good idea, but it doesn't feel like the right time, or you can't figure out exactly how to phrase it correctly? And for me, that usually happens when there's something else that I need to say or really want to talk about, but am trying not to. And so I've been avoiding the episode because I didn't want to sit down and give you guys an episode that I wasn't proud of or something that my heart wasn't really in. And so I figured that this episode, we would just talk. And I know that usually that's kind of what the beginning of our episodes look like, where I let you guys know where I'm going, what I'm doing, just kind of general life updates and stuff. And I really do love that portion of the episode. And I just feel like I want the whole episode to be like that, just me talking to you guys and giving updates, kind of like we're on FaceTime and I am giving you a really long-winded update about what my life looks like and what I'm going through and how I'm feeling and all of that stuff, because I think that we have such a strong bond and such a strong connection, me with you guys. And I think that I have just been feeling kind of off lately. And I think that part of why I've been feeling off when it comes to getting online and recording the podcast and stuff like that is because I feel like there's a big part of how I'm feeling and what I'm going through that I haven't shared with you guys. And I don't want this episode to come across as me complaining or me just being down on my life. I really am so thankful for the life that I live and the opportunities that I have. And genuinely, the biggest problem that I'm facing right now is a good problem to have. I have issues and problems and things going on in my life, but it is they're good problems at the end of the day. And so I just wanted to talk to you guys about how I'm feeling and everything like that, because I think that a lot of the times you guys will DM me and tell me what's going on in your life and how you're feeling, and we get to talk through it together. And that really does mean so much to me. So I figured I would return the favor, because when I post a lot of stuff, it's usually we've talked about this before, but usually when I talk to you guys about things, it's when I found resolution and have resolve, and I talk to you guys about how I've worked through it, or just my insights from experiencing whatever it is that I've experienced. And while I think that there's a lot of value in that, and I think that I get to share with you guys what I've learned and all that stuff, and I really do appreciate getting to do that, I think that that kind of removes a little bit, not removes, but I feel I could add, that's better. I feel I could add a little bit more humanity and talk to you guys more about things that I'm going through as I'm going through them. So we'll just get started. And what I wanted to talk about this week kind of does tie into what this episode has turned into. And so I guess it's just gonna be a joint episode of what I planned out and what I am feeling and how they intersect. But first of all, I know that I told you guys that this week, Alex and I, or no, not this week, next week, Alex and I were supposed to be going somewhere. And I don't remember, I think last time we talked, we were supposed to be going to San Diego. And you guys, let me just say that so much has happened since the last time I recorded this podcast. So a little over a week. So much has happened. I feel and that's part of why I'm feeling the way that I feel, really overwhelmed and just a little bit anxious and on edge. It's because I feel I keep making decisions. And then once I make a decision, I'm the kind of person who I'll make a decision and then I'll move forward with that, because you know the saying, Rome wasn't built in a day, right? Rome wasn't built in a day, but somebody actively had to build it. And I feel I'm the builder, except it's not Rome, it's my life. And I just have come to that understanding from 22 on, that if I want something out of life, if I want something to happen, if I want to create an opportunity, then I'm the only one who's going to do that, right? It's not just going to show up for me. And it's not necessarily saying that I'm the one who makes everything happen. No, I'm the one who has to show up and create the opportunity so that somebody else, some other opportunity, some other experience can meet me where I am, if that makes any sense. And so I feel that's what I've been doing lately, where I'm creating opportunities for something to happen. And then as soon as I get really comfortable with where I am and the decision I've made, something changes and something happens to where that doesn't work out, or it doesn't make sense. And it's not that I'm holding resentment over things changing. I think that I'm just feeling really overwhelmed by the speed in which they're changing, because once I make my mind up about something, I run full speed ahead. I'm okay, well then this is our next step. This is what we have to do. Let's get it together. And so all that to say, this week, or I keep saying this week, next week we're supposed supposed to go to San Diego because as of last week, California was the place that we are considering moving really heavily. And I was really excited about it. Alex was excited about it. I started telling people about it. I told you guys about it. We were really heavily considering California. And so the decision was kind of between LA and San Diego. And so we were going to go to San Diego next week to just like experience it, see it. I'd never been, Alex hadn't been, and like see if that's a place that we'd like to move. And I was like really set on that decision. I was really excited to see what California could be for us. I was just so excited to be there, somewhere new, somewhere where I felt like I had a lot of opportunity, both personally and career-wise, as like I'm an influencer. And I think that I really have been focusing on growing the podcast. And I think a great way of growing the podcast would be to have really fun guests on there. And a lot of guests either live in California or travel to California often. And so my mindset was like, I can go and I can really, really focus on my career and I can hone that in and make it what I want it to be. And so that's where my mind was. And that's what I was so excited about. That's what I was thinking about. I was constantly on Zillow looking at places in LA. I was constantly talking to people about it, getting their opinions on LA, getting their opinions on San Diego. And then Alex and I had a conversation where we realized that because of the changes we're making in our lives in the next couple of years, LA, or just California in general, doesn't really make a ton of sense because right now we live in Denver where obviously there's income tax. And then in California, income tax is higher than Denver's income tax. And with Alex going back to school so that he can pivot in his career, which we're really, really excited about, he would have to make some changes at his current job. And so with, the added expenses and then the changing in jobs, and the hope is that being there would create more opportunity for me to make more money, which is really exciting. But just when we looked at the math and really broke it down, that it would take longer for the hopeful to happen than the reality that we'd be in. And so we just decided it doesn't really make a ton of sense to go to LA right now, especially because I really would love to buy a house. And in the next 3 to 4 years, we'll probably be starting a family. And so it just doesn't make sense to go somewhere and then, maybe find a house to rent and hopefully it has enough space to have a kid or multiple kids. Like, who knows, who knows what life could look like. And there was just a lot up in the air, and California didn't offer a lot of comfort when we thought about the changes in our lives. And so we scrapped that idea, and that was fine. I was like, okay, you know what, maybe something else. And if you guys remember a while ago, I was considering moving to, not just I, but obviously Alex and I, but I say I because you guys are talking to me, but we were considering moving to New York. And I was also really excited about that. And I was looking at apartments all the time and I was planning what my life could look like. And then we decided that didn't make a lot of sense. I think just because of my personality and my desire to make things happen and find just active next steps, I get really, really invested in an idea. But at the same time, once that idea goes away, I don't really have like long-term emotional attachment to it. I'm like, okay, that didn't work out. There's a reason it didn't work out. Moving on to the next thing. But that said, I think that there's not a lot of space in my life between what I had previously decided and the next thing that I'm deciding. Externally, I think that makes me look really impulsive. It makes me look like I don't really know what I want and I'm just kind of floundering around. And I know how that may look, but that's not the reality. And it ties into what we were talking about last week, where I was saying that just other people's opinions about who you are and what you're doing should not have any substantial hold on what you actually know about yourself. And I know that I'm not super impulsive when it comes to making changes in where I live or my career. I am really thoughtful about those things, but because I don't hold long-term emotional attachment to, or even really short-term emotional attachment to things that I know aren't best for me, and I'm quick to move on from them, I think that makes me look impulsive. And so, New York was out, California was out, and so we were having conversations again of what do we want to do. Then we found out that a great opportunity for Alex was opening up in Denver, and so we were thinking, okay, we'll stay in Denver, and you'll do that, and then you don't have to make any career changes. Everything goes according to plan. We already know what it's like here. We live here. We have friends here. Like, maybe we should just stay here, because the whole reason we were even going to move in the first place was because Alex's career and him wanting to make changes. And I was so willing to support him in that, especially because where the places that we are going to move would be great for my career as well. And so it just kind of made sense that I'd be excited about that. And then the new opportunity came to us in Denver. And so we were thinking, we'll just stay here. Great. So I went ahead and I was like, if I'm going to stay here, I really want to buy a house. It makes sense that if we're going to be here for the next 3-5 years, that we would buy a house here and start gaining equity, and like our money is going towards something. And so that's what I started the process of doing. And Alex Alex and I aren't married yet, and we're both pretty against buying a house together before we're married, and I wanted to buy a house pretty quickly, so I'm going to buy the house by myself, and I was so excited about that. So then I reached out to my friend who's a real estate agent, and she connected me with a lender, and so I reached out to the lender, sent all of my financial documents, got everything squared away, and then I got the pre-approval back, and I was so excited about the pre-approval. I started looking on Zillow, I started looking at things, and then we toured 2 houses, and I can't express how I felt other than just like let down and disappointed. I think that if you're familiar at all with Denver real estate or any just like big city real estate, you will know exactly the feeling where everything is so expensive. And even though it is so expensive, it is small or it is really outdated or it's in a bad neighborhood. It's like the money that you're paying doesn't really get you what you think that it'd get you unless you're paying $2 million, $3 million. Like when I tell you almost $1 million in Denver does not even compare to what that same amount of money would get you in so many other places. And I think that part of the disappointment I was feeling is because I grew up in Texas, so I'm familiar with how far your money goes in Texas, and your money does not go as far in Denver as it does anywhere in Texas, like not even close to going as far. I mean, maybe Denver could be comparable to like Austin, you know, a really booming place like that, but I'm not really familiar with Austin's real estate. I grew up in Houston, went to college in Dallas, lived there for a while before I moved to Denver, and so I'm pretty familiar with all of that landscape. And so just going to these places that are either like really bad flips with like really bad issues that they just painted over, or super outdated, or just like I was saying, in a bad neighborhood, not bad, I just like in a neighborhood that I wouldn't really want to live in because it is far from all of my friends or far from the things that I do, or just like doesn't make me feel super comfortable. I think that a really good telltale sign of if a neighborhood is a place that I would feel comfortable being is if I'm driving around and I see people outside walking, like walking their dogs, walking their kids in strollers. That just makes me feel really comfortable. I find that everywhere that I've lived really kind of offers that, except for when I first moved to Denver, I lived in Aurora, and that wasn't something I was paying attention to because that's all I had known. So I just assumed it was like that everywhere. And then come to find out that that really is a good telltale sign of the safety of the neighborhood and the community aspect of the neighborhood, of like how often people are outside walking, jogging, like hanging out on their front porch, whatever it may be. And I just wasn't seeing any of that in Aurora. And when I was looking at these places, I wasn't seeing any of that in these neighborhoods. And except, I mean, the first 2 that we toured were in like fine neighborhoods by my friends, whatever, but I didn't like the houses. And then we drove to another city, like very slightly outside of Denver, 15 minutes outside of Denver. And I was looking at these houses on Zillow, gorgeous houses on the inside. But when I was driving through the neighborhood, the house on the outside just looked worse than it did in the pictures. In the pictures, I was like, oh, that might, you know, could use a little paint, a little touch up, a little care. But in person, I was like, oh my God, that's awful. Like it does not look even remotely the same. And I didn't feel really comfortable in the neighborhood because I have 2 dogs, right? And so I have to walk the dogs. Even though we're going to have a backyard, I'd still like to take them on walks and get them good exercise. And I really like walking myself. And so the ability to walk in the neighborhood that I own a house in is pretty important to me. And just knowing that nobody was doing that, I was like, oh, this is a little bit strange. And not even like walking per se, but just anyone outside. We didn't see anyone. It just seemed really desolate and it seemed really like uncomfortable. I just got a really bad feeling about it. And so I was really disappointed by that because I just felt like, okay, well, we drove all the way out here, and all the way out here, it was 15 minutes, but just we drove out here and I got my hopes up because the inside of these houses looked great. And now I just feel disappointed again and back to square one. And then I, went back to the drawing board on Zillow and I'm looking at other places, but now I kind of have this feeling of like, nothing is really exciting to me because the 4 properties that I looked at all made me feel let down and discouraged in some way. And that's really how I'm feeling, just like discouraged. And so going on Zillow really isn't that fun because I'm like, okay, well, what's wrong with this? Or, what is going to come up here? Or is the inspection even going to be good? Like something, down the line, or this house has been sitting on the market. Are they willing to come down in price a little bit? Or am I really going to pay absolute sticker price for this, like this property? And it really doesn't make any sense because comparatively, like I was saying, what I can get in Denver versus what I can get in Texas is just like mind blowing. I was talking to a friend earlier and I sent her what $550 could get me in Denver because I was telling her like the real estate in Denver is just crazy. And I was like, this is what $550 can get you in Denver. This is what $550 can get you in Dallas. And it's like a world of difference. And $550,000 is objectively a lot of money. So imagine my surprise when I'm touring houses that are even more than that and they still aren't really really getting any better. Like that, it's just shocking to me. It truly is shocking to me. And I know that's been kind of like a long sequence of me complaining, but really the point that I'm trying to make is that I feel so overwhelmed because it seems like I am in this place in my life where every decision I make is a big decision. Every decision I make can set the path for the rest of my life. Then I'm realizing now more than ever that the rest of my life is comprised of a bunch of really tiny decisions and a bunch of big decisions. And I'm not really feeling like I'm making any decisions right now that aren't big deals, that don't mean something substantial for my life right now or for my future or for what the next 5 years looks like, 10 years look like. I mean, I've been talking to you guys a little bit about how like Alex and I are talking about getting married and engagement is coming soon. And I'm so excited to get engaged. I'm so excited to marry him. I really couldn't imagine anything better, but also marriage is a big fucking deal. You know what I mean? Like deciding who you're going to marry is a really big deal. And while I don't feel an ounce of anxiety about that, I mean, that's the one thing I think, the one decision I'm making right now that I don't feel any anxiety about, I still have to realize it is a humongous decision. And so it's that. And then where am I going to live? Like, am I going to put my career first? And we move to a place where, you know, we don't get to buy a house and we are renting. And then that kind of puts like things on the back burner. And then maybe it's not the best for Alex's career, or it's not even, as it turns out, great for my career, or whatever it may be. So where we live is a really big decision, especially if I'm going to buy a house, because when you buy a house, you can put anywhere between 3.5 to 20% down, depending on what loan you get. And I feel so overwhelmed with all of the decisions that are on my plate right now. And I am talking about it in therapy, and I'm talking about it to my friends, and I'm talking about it to Alex. And I just feel like no matter who I'm talking to, at the end of the day, it's a big decision for me to make and for Alex and I to make together. And we also have been talking a lot about, Alex and I have been talking a lot about how wherever we move is like where we're starting our marriage. And so it's important that we move to a place where we think that we could be happy together and where we could like find fulfillment both individually and together and in our careers and in our personal life, because we don't want the first year of our marriage to be so volatile, not, you know, between us, but between where we live, like not liking where we live, not liking our jobs, not liking things like that. We want to feel really comfortable in the place that we move to. So I keep going back to, no matter how far I think I get away from it, no matter how fast I try to outrun it, Dallas just seems to make the most sense, which I mean, I love Dallas. I love Dallas so much. And I left because I just felt like I did what I needed to do there at that point in my life. And I never said when I left Dallas, I would never go back. I never even thought about that. It didn't really feel like a permanent decision. It felt like something I was doing for the moment. And, you know, Dallas was always on the radar to go back to when I was ready to buy a house and start a family and all those things. And I'm realizing, oh my God, I'm in the phase where I'm starting to buy a house and start a family. And so it seems like Dallas makes the most sense, but do you see where I'm coming from? Where I'd be so anxious to even say that, because it feels like once I say that, admit that I could be happy there and that could work out, something happens to where, you know, we have to change our minds or maybe go a different direction. And so I think that what I'm tired of is getting my hopes up and getting excited about something just to have to pivot so quickly. And you know how sometimes when people are dating and they really like a guy, and then the guy starts to like them back and they're like, oh no, I actually don't like him. Like I think that I liked the chase and I think that I liked just the competition for his attention. And I never experienced that. Like once I liked a guy and then he liked me back, I was like, okay, perfect. So we're going to do this, because I think that I was really intentional about who I was dating long term. And if I didn't like a guy on the first date, I wasn't going to just like test the waters and go on a second date. I only dated for as long as I saw something evolving with that person, or, you know, us being together. And so once they let me know that they liked me and we were going to progress our relationship, great, boom, done. Like I was in it. And so I never experienced that with men. However, I do experience that with so many other things in my life. I think namely like when I make a decision about something and then that decision starts to happen, I'm like, oh wait, is that the right decision that I'm making? Is that really what I want to do? And I think that that's kind of what has been happening with this buying a house. And it's not that I don't want to buy a house, I'm backing out on that, but I do think that once I got that pre-approval back and I got the go ahead to start like actually looking at properties, I was like, wait, am I old enough to do this? Am I capable of doing this? Is this the right time? Am I making a wrong decision? What if I buy a house and I don't like it? I was talking about all of that in therapy, and my therapist knows obviously that I have bipolar disorder. We talk about that a lot. And I think that part of it, before we get into what we discuss in therapy, to give context, I think that part of when I'm making these big decisions and I'm moving towards it, I always have this little fear in the back of my head that I'm entering a manic episode, and it freaks me out because I'm like, if I'm in a manic episode, I can't be making these really huge decisions. But if you're familiar with bipolar, like when I'm in a manic episode, I don't recognize them as really big decisions. I do it. I jump into it and I move forward, and I don't really think about long-term consequences. I don't really think about how my actions can affect or impact other people. I just do whatever I want to do. And last time I was in a pretty major manic episode and I made a decision pretty much on a whim. Guess what I did? I moved to Denver. And while that has worked out so beautifully, and I have loved living in Denver, I have grown so much from living here and gained so much from living here, it was a decision made in a manic episode. And I think that goes to show me, and hopefully goes to show you, that even if you make decisions under the wrong pretense, or you make a decision and you're not really sure how it's going to work out, there is nothing you can do that'll take you away from what's meant for you. And whether or not I moved to Denver in a manic episode or completely clear-headed, I fully believe that I was meant to live here, and nothing I could have done could have taken that away from me. And that really gives me a lot of peace, knowing that no matter how manic I am, no matter how stable I am going to end up where I'm supposed to end up. And that really is reassuring to me. And so I was talking about my anxiety in therapy and telling her that I'm having a lot of feelings around, getting the pre-approval and being able to place an offer. And when I was talking to the lender, he kept saying, yeah, you can close in 30 days. You can close in 30 days. And I was like, 30 days? Like, how did I go from living in an apartment that I love and not at all thinking that I'd be staying in Denver to 30 days from now, I would be living in a house that I own after spending, like 10 to 20% on a down payment? It feels crazy to me. So I was telling her about this, and she was like, I know that you're not in a manic episode because the way that you're talking about it is letting me know that you are thinking critically about this. You understand that this is a really big decision that you're about to make. And because it's a really big decision, naturally some anxiety is going to well up in you. And then we talked about how it's, our job, and really my job, to look at where this anxiety is coming from and decide if this is anxiety because I really like my intuition telling me that this is a bad decision, or if this is just natural anxiety that you get when you're 25, about to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on a big purchase. It's natural to have a little bit of anxiety in that situation. And so it reassured me that I'm not in a manic episode. I didn't feel like I'm in a manic episode. That's not something that I've really been super worried about. But like I was saying, this like little nagging thought in the back of my head saying like, maybe you should pump the brakes a little bit because this could be scary. And it really isn't scary. I think that I am very much in the phase of my life where buying a house is a natural next step. I don't think that there's anything shocking about me buying a house right now. I don't think that there's anything impulsive about me buying a house. When I look at it, it's like, why would I continue to rent in a place that I really do believe I'm going to be for the next 3 to 5 years and could be happy here and could start a family here? Like, it doesn't make sense to throw away that money, and the return I get is like month to month. It's not building up into something. But I'm reminding you though that our possible decision to not stay in Denver isn't based around like I've changed my mind around Denver. It's just, does it financially make sense to spend the same amount of money in Denver and get something so much bigger and something that I would love so much more somewhere else, and namely Dallas? I have community there. I have people there. And like when you have kids, everyone says it takes a village. My village is in Dallas. My best friends, the people who have supported me and loved me and grown me, live in Dallas. And so it just kind of makes sense. And also my career would be great there. There's a lot of influencer things in Dallas. And so like I said, I feel like I'm making decisions and changing my mind, and I would happily stay in Denver if I found something that was comparable, something that offered me the similar things that Dallas could offer me. And I think that it took me touring these houses and really stepping into a reality check for me to really think about all the things that I'm wanting and all the things that I'm needing in my life, and then understanding that, maybe Denver can't offer that to me right now. now. And so as you guys can see, I'm having a lot of really big emotions about this, a little bit of anxiety, a little bit of disappointment, a little bit of discouragement. Like I'm having a lot of really big emotions. And while it's not fun to have a lot of these really big emotions, and at times I wish that I could just put them away, I think about how really a month ago, this episode's going to come out when I've been 1 month off of birth control. A month ago, I wasn't feeling emotions nearly as deeply as I'm feeling them now, and it's only been a month. I have been realizing over the past month that hormonal birth control has dulled me slowly over time until my feelings and the ability I had to dive deeper into my feelings and other people's feelings was really, really diminished from when I got on birth control. And then over the next 6 years, just slowly and slowly, my baseline started decreasing. And it wasn't that I was having all of these high highs and low lows because of birth control. Trust me, bipolar covers that. But I was having just like this baseline feeling of slowly, it was just getting lower and lower. And I wasn't experiencing things nearly as deeply. And I'm now a month removed from it, and I'm realizing that I am experiencing things in a way that I haven't in a really long time, that I'm really sitting with my emotions and feeling the depth of my emotions. And right now I'm going through a stressful and anxiety inducing time. And because of that, I am feeling those things. And I am so thankful to be feeling my feelings and really being able to sit in them and explore them without pushing them down, or without, only seeing the top 10% of them and trying to make decisions based off the top 10%, because I have always, my entire life, been a very emotion-based decision maker. And while some people say that that is not helpful or beneficial, that you shouldn't make decisions when you're emotional, it has never led me astray. That making decisions when I feel my emotions has led me to the best experiences of my life and cleared me away from some of the possible worst experiences I could have gone through. I'm so thankful that I've been a very emotion-based decision maker. That said, when my emotional depth and capacity is over time being lowered and lowered, you see how my decision making hasn't been as clear and sharp. I plan to talk more about my experiences getting off of birth control as obviously I continue going through the process, but that's just the base layer of what I've been feeling lately, that I've been feeling my emotions at such a heightened level. And it's not this heightened level like, oh, something is wrong, like when I'm manic. It's a heightened level of, oh, this is just what I used to feel. This is what it feels like to really sit and rest in my feelings. And also, if you guys didn't know, I feel like I've just been talking this episode about me having bipolar disorder, and there's quite a few of you here that probably don't know that I had bipolar disorder or have it, but you guys probably didn't know because I used to talk about it a lot more online. And then I felt like whenever I was sharing something and I was really excited about it, or whenever I was making a big decision for my life, the comments would be like, are you manic? Be careful, you could be manic. And I don't need more doctors. I don't need more opinions on my mental health. I have a doctor that I pay well, and she gives me her opinions, her professional opinions on my mental health. I don't need comments asking me if I'm manic or if I'm okay or if I'm making the best decisions for myself, because I'm a grown woman. I know how to make the best decisions for myself. If I do want opinions about decisions I'm making, then I would ask people who actually know me and are close with me. I wouldn't ask people that I have never spoken to face to face. You know what I mean? I think that putting in that boundary was really important to me, and that boundary just looked like me over time talking less and less about my mental health and my bipolar disorder, because I think that bipolar disorder, more so than ADHD, which I talk about openly, or anxiety, which I talk about semi-openly, is more stigmatized. It seems like once you say that you have bipolar disorder, people suddenly think that they have a free pass to call you crazy and call into question your capacity to make decisions for yourself. And that put me in actually a really bad mental state, because I started to doubt myself. And then I realized I don't need to doubt myself based off the opinion of strangers. I actually know that I am making good decisions, and whether or not I'm manic, quite frankly, isn't anyone's business. And then I realized I am not the one in the wrong for sharing my excitement or my hope or my joy. Somebody else is in the wrong for assuming, because I'm expressing my excitement, my hope, and my joy, that I am having a manic episode. And even if the assumption happened to be correct, which 99% of the time, the assumption was not correct, even if the assumption happened to be correct, it is never healthy to assume or to push your perceptions or your projections onto someone else, especially someone who exists to you through a screen. You know what I mean? So I took a big step back on sharing about bipolar disorder, but now I think that I am in a better place with asserting my boundaries. I think back then the way that I knew how to assert the boundary was just to completely remove the opportunity for somebody to ask me about it, unless of course they remembered. But I think that over time people stopped associating me with bipolar disorder because I used to talk about it a lot more, and it seemed like people would think of me as a bipolar creator, which that's a whole nother thing that we can get into a whole nother time. But it's, people stopped associating me with that because I wasn't really talking about it. And because I wasn't really talking about it, people felt less inclined to give their opinions on it. And now I'm better with asserting my boundaries. Now, if somebody asks me something like that, instead of just like blocking them, I will straight up tell them that is inappropriate and you cannot do that here. And if you do it here again, you will get blocked. And the reason I don't want to go straight to blocking anymore is because I think that when people would ask, sometimes they were just like rude, but sometimes they thought that they were being helpful. And because I think that I shared a lot more of myself online, and so the ability to create a parasocial relationship was a lot higher. And I think that we really have worked on our boundaries, and I think that we're a lot better about that now. But the ability to form a parasocial relationship with me was a lot different, and they thought they were being helpful. And I didn't really know how to say like, hey, that's not helpful, because I think I was getting really defensive about it, because at the time I was sharing about my bipolar disorder, it was still a relatively new diagnosis to me. And now I've been living with the diagnosis for almost 5 years, like quite a while. So now somebody else giving insight on it really doesn't sway me so much, because like I was saying in the last episode, that now I know who I am and I know what my symptoms look like and I know what my mania, my depression looks like for the most part. So someone else, trying to tell me that I'm manic doesn't land with me the way that it used to, because now I can say for sure I'm not. I've been having much better therapy sessions because I'm feeling my feelings, and I've been having much better therapy sessions because I've been feeling my emotions in a much deeper way, and I'm able to express them in a more well-rounded way. I would say that I have the better words to articulate how I'm feeling and to really get to the root of what I was feeling. I think that in previous therapy sessions, I would just simply say, I'm sad, I'm angry, I'm disappointed, and I wasn't getting to the root of why I was feeling that way. And now I have the patience, I believe is the right word. I have the patience to sit there and dig deep about how I'm feeling. And because I'm meeting myself with more empathy and more understanding, because I'm feeling the wide breadth of my emotions, I can better express that to my therapist, and she can really see me for where I am, not the top 10% of how I'm feeling. I fully believe that when I'm angry about something or when I'm upset about something, that is usually the top 10% of how I'm feeling. And there's a whole world below it that is like begging to come to the surface and begging to be worked through. And now finally I have the patience and the ability to work through them. And so my therapy sessions are so much better and so much more fulfilling because I'm allowing myself to sit there and really explore why I'm feeling and why things are coming up for me. I think that it is natural to be upset about things. It is natural to be angry about things. It is natural to be disappointed in things, sure. But why am I feeling that way? What is the root cause? Because if the root cause isn't addressed, if I'm continuously pushing that down or not giving myself the space to explore it, it's going to keep coming up in different situations. It's going to continuously manifest itself because our feelings, I think, are dying to be noticed. And if you don't notice it, or if you're not willing to notice it in one situation, it's going to come up time and time again because that emotion isn't just going to go away. You might be able to push it down and put a band-aid on it and kind of ignore it for a little bit, but it's going to keep coming up. And I think that I've learned that the hard way when I feel like I'm having Groundhog Day with my emotions. The same things keep coming up and I keep thinking, oh, I thought I worked through this. I thought I talked about this. Lo and behold, I wasn't at all. That's been one of the best benefits of getting off of birth control and being able to really explore and feel my emotions, because I'm paying for therapy anyway. You know what I mean? It's $100 every week, baby. So I'm going in there and I can only get out of it what I put into it. And if I'm not willing to go deeper and actually have better conversations, then what am I paying for, right? But that's not something I thought about or cared about when I was on birth control because my baseline was continuously getting lower and lower. And now I feel like I'm back, baby. And I'm also back in another way. You guys, let's get honest here for a second. My sex life is so much better, not only because of what birth control does to your body and your hormones and all that stuff, but the ability to feel the connection that sex offers, the ability to explore the things that I want and talk about these things and listen and receive. Like the way that sex has transformed for me because of my ability to really sit and rest in how I'm feeling and feel really connected to my body has been incredible. I wouldn't say that when I was having sex, it was bad, and not by a long shot, but it was definitely different. And now I can say with 100% certainty, it is the sex I want to be having, the sex that I didn't even realize I could be having. I got on birth control at 19, and I also started having sex at 19. I got on birth control because I started having sex. Do you see the correlation there? And so I have only in my life had sex on birth control, and now having sex off birth control is a whole different world. And I'm not going to like promiscuity bait you with the details of my sex life, but I will say that because I'm having better sex, my relationship looks so much better, and the way that we're able to communicate about things is so much better. I think that the correlation between our communication and our sex life really goes hand in hand. I would say that when we're having sex and it feels connected and good, then the communication that we have feels really connected and good. Communication definitely comes first, but it's like two cups pouring into each other continuously. Better communication, better sex, because we're having better sex, we're having better communication, and so on and so forth. And it's just been so incredible and so much fun to not only feel more connected with my partner, but feel more connected to myself and be like, oh, that's what sex for me is supposed to feel like. That's what that experience for me is supposed to feel like. And not at all comparing my sex life to what I've read online or what my friends are telling me or what I've read in books, whatever. Like not comparing my sex life to other people's sex lives and their sexual experiences, but being able to compare my current sex life to my previous sex life and say 100% without a doubt that my current sex life is so much better and so much more fun. One of my favorite benefits also is my ability to hold space not only for my big emotions, but for everyone around me's big emotions. I think that over time, because my emotions had been diluted, I wasn't able to hold space for other people's really big emotions. I was talking to you guys a couple of episodes ago about how I have been having trouble expressing my big feelings publicly and in front of other people. And I think that the whole thing really made me uncomfortable because how was I expected to share my big emotions with other people externally if I couldn't even do that with myself? And so now I'm in a much different place and able to do that in a much better way. And because I'm able to express openly, I am more comfortable receiving openly. I think that when people are going through really hard times or really great times, I'm able to sit there with them and meet them in it. And that's been so beautiful for my friendships. Rather than just seeing the top level and not really wanting to go deeper beyond that, I'm able to really evaluate what they're saying to me and figure out how to help them through it or sit with them in their joy without feeling like it is a hit to me or not feeling like, oh, they're kind of having a really big emotion and now I'm uncomfortable. That's never who I wanted to be to my friends or to my partner or to anyone. I wanted to be able to sit with people in their feelings and meet them with the depth that I meet myself with. And I was doing that, except the depth that I was meeting myself with was very shallow. And so naturally, where I was meeting them was quite shallow as well. But now that I'm in a much better place with myself, you can see how I'm in a much better place with the people that I love. And I already feel so much better after talking to you guys. Recording the podcast means more to me than I can even express. A place that I can come and be open and be honest and talk to my community is so special to me. And this direct link that we have where we come here and we like reconvene every week and have these conversations just means so much to me. And I have been putting it off. And it's like I put it off and now I'm here doing it. And I'm so thankful that I sat down and recorded this. And I'm so thankful for you guys to have it in your hands and in your ears. I really am so fucking lucky to get to do this and to get to have the community that I do. And the podcast is growing. It means so much to me. I recently had a couple bigger videos take off, and because of that, and I link on my stories, and then when I link on my stories, they, come here. And so the podcast is growing. And so there's new people here. And I'm so thankful to have you guys here. It just means so much to me that you guys would listen to this and that the listener count and the viewer count goes up every single week. Like that's just astronomical to me. And it just gives me the best feeling in the world. And so I wanted to talk to you guys about how I'm feeling. And I feel so much lighter because I feel like I'm not really holding things back from you anymore. I feel like I'm actually finally talking to you about things. I want to leave you guys with this quote that I hold really dear to me. It's something that I said to myself once, and now I say it to myself when I'm feeling really big emotions, when I'm feeling anxiety, when I'm feeling joy, whatever I'm feeling. I say it to myself all of the time. And it is just that if the universe can be anything, I am choosing to believe that it is kind and it is warm and it is intentional. And if it can be those things, it wants to be those things to me. It's similar to the other quote that I have where I say, if something good can happen to anyone, why couldn't it happen to me, right? They are two sides of the same coin, but I am just choosing to believe that no matter what I do, whether I buy a house in Denver or I move back to Dallas or surprise, LA is back on the list, like no matter what I do, I cannot take away what's meant for me. I cannot get far enough away from it that I won't find my way back to it. And that gives me a lot of peace. I think that it is natural to feel anxiety surrounding making big decisions, whether big financial decisions or big lifestyle decisions. It's so natural. But even though it's natural, that feeling doesn't have to live here. That feeling doesn't have to stay. Just because I'm feeling the anxiety right now doesn't mean that I'll feel it forever. And that goes for any emotion I'm feeling. Just because I'm feeling joy right now doesn't mean I'll feel it forever. Just because I'm feeling disappointment right now doesn't mean I'll feel it forever. And that just reminds me to hold on to the joy, hold on to the goodness, hold on to the hope as tightly as I can, because just like any other emotion, it comes and it goes, and I have to come and go with it, right? And so that's what I wanted to leave you guys with. But thank you so much for tuning into this episode and for listening to me just ramble and get some things off my chest. I just wanted to be honest with you guys because I know that you receive it well when I am, and I know that I feel lighter when I am. And so that's what I have for you guys this week. But I will see you guys here next Sunday. I'll see you guys on Instagram at Sierra and Photos. I will see you guys on TikTok at Average CC, Average SISI. I know that can get a little bit confusing. And on YouTube, I'll see you guys around. It is all linked below. And as always, I want to talk about this episode in my DMs. So please don't hesitate to message me. I can't wait to talk to you guys soon. Okay, I love you so much, and I'm on your side. Mwah.